For almost 40 years, if you needed 100 balloons, a cake topper, a piñata, and a cheap plastic tablecloth in the same afternoon, there was exactly one place you went. Party City, 800 stores, the biggest party supply company on the planet. It didn't just sell the party, it made the party. It owned the factories that printed the plates and the machine that blew up the balloons. And then, 4 days before Christmas 2024, a man who had been the CEO for about 4 months got on a call and told corporate staff the company was winding down. Every store, gone. Roughly 12,000 people, out. By the end of February 2025, the lights were off for good. Here's the thing, everybody got wrong. The headline said people stopped having parties. They didn't. Americans threw just as many birthdays in 2024 as they did in 2014. Party City did not die because the party stopped. Party City died because it was never really a party company. It was a $2 billion pile of debt wearing a birthday hat, held up by balloons and by a gas that kept running out. This is the Autopsy, and it's the story of how the store that killed the neighborhood party shop got killed by the exact same trick it once used. 6 chapters. Let's open the file. Chapter 1. The Superstore that ate the party. To understand how it died, you have to understand why it should have lived. Because Party City wasn't a bad idea, it was a great one. In 1986, a guy named Steve Mandel opened a single store in East Hanover, New Jersey. The concept was almost stupidly simple, a supermarket, but for parties. Before Party City, if you were planning a kid's birthday, you drove to 5 different places. The card shop for invitations, the drugstore for candles, a costume shop, a bakery, a novelty store. Mandel put all of it under one roof, in bulk, cheap. This is a specific and deadly kind of business. Retail people call it a category killer. You pick one narrow category, party goods, pet supplies, office supplies, and you build a store so big and so cheap that every small specialty shop in the category simply cannot compete. Toys R Us did it to toy stores. Home Depot did it to hardware stores. Party City did it to the local party shop. One by one, the little guys closed. And here's the first lesson, the one that pays off at the very end. A category killer's whole advantage is scale. It only works if you're the biggest and the cheapest. The moment you're not, the entire reason to exist disappears. But Party City did something most category killers never managed. It didn't just sell the party goods. It went upstream and started making them. In 2005, the retail chain merged with a company called Amscan, a designer and manufacturer of party supplies. Now Party City owned the factories. It printed its own plates, cups, napkins, and streamers. And it owned a company called Anagram, which, and this is not an exaggeration, is the largest manufacturer of metallic foil balloons in the world. Think about what that means. When you bought a shiny happy birthday balloon at Party City, the odds were good that Party City's own factory made it, Party City's own truck shipped it, and Party City's own store sold it, and filled it with helium for you at the counter. Economists call this vertical integration. Party City was the largest vertically integrated party goods supplier on Earth. It didn't just have a moat. It owned the water, the bricks, and the drawbridge. By 2018, this machine was throwing off nearly $2.5 billion a year in revenue. 800 stores, its own factories. A near monopoly on a happy, recession-resistant little corner of the economy. People will cut a lot of things in a downturn, but they will still buy their kid a birthday. So here's the question the rest of this video answers. How do you take a business this dominant, a genuine moat, a beloved brand, a product nobody else could make as cheaply, and drive it into a ditch so deep that it liquidates twice? You don't do it by accident, you need help. And the help arrived in the form of a leveraged buyout. Chapter 2, the leveraged buyout. Let me explain the single financial maneuver that quietly killed more American retailers than Amazon ever did. It's called a leveraged buyout, and once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. Toys R Us, Sears, Payless, Red Lobster. Party City is just the one with balloons. Here's how it works. A private equity firm wants to buy a company, but instead of paying with its own money, it borrows most of the purchase price. And then, in a move that sounds illegal but isn't, it puts that debt on the company it just bought. You did not read that wrong. The company is forced to borrow the money used to buy itself. Imagine buying a house, and the day you move in, the house is handed the mortgage and told to make the payments out of its own pocket. In 2012, the private equity giant Thomas H. Lee Partners took control of Party City, and the deal loaded roughly $2.2 billion of debt onto the company. Sit with that number for a second. $2.2 billion in debt on a company whose entire annual revenue was about the same amount. That is like a family that earns $100,000 a year signing up for a $100,000 a year loan payment. There is no version of that budget that works. Then, in April 2015, they took Party City public, an IPO on the New York Stock Exchange that raised about $372 million. Now, a normal person hears, the company raised $372 million and thinks, great. Now they can renovate the stores, build a killer website, invest in the future. That is not what happened. A huge chunk of that money went to paying down the very debt the buyout had created. The IPO wasn't fuel for the future. It was a bucket to bail out a boat the owners had drilled a hole in. And this is the lesson buried in the balloons. A moat only protects you if you can afford to defend it. Party City had the best moat in the business. And then it spent the next decade sending every spare dollar not to the moat, but to the bank. The factories got older, the stores got shabbier, the website fell behind, not because nobody noticed, because there was no money left to fix it, it was all going to interest. How much interest? That's chapter 3, and it's the number that should be printed on this company's tombstone. Chapter 3, the gas that ran out. Let's do the math, because the math is the whole story. By 2022, Party City was paying about $102 million a year, just in interest. Not paying down the debt, just the interest, the rent on the borrowed money. Put that on a daily clock. $102 million a year comes out to roughly $280,000 a day. Every single day, weekends, holidays, snow days, Party City woke up owing about $280,000 in interest before it sold one balloon, paid one cashier, or unlocked one door. So let's price that in the company's own currency. Balloons. A filled foil balloon might make the store, say, $6 in profit after the helium. $280,000 divided by 6 is roughly 47,000 balloons, which means Party City had to sell and fill about 47,000 helium balloons a day, every day, just to cover the interest. Not the rent on 800 stores, not 12,000 paychecks, not the plastic and the trucks, just the interest on a buyout that happened years earlier and put nothing into the business. Now, hold that image of a balloon in your head, because the universe has a cruel sense of humor, and in 2019, it aimed straight at Party City's lungs. The world ran out of helium. This is real. Helium is a finite, non-renewable gas, mostly a byproduct of natural gas drilling. And every few years, the global supply gets tight and the price spikes. For most companies, helium is a rounding error. For Party City, helium was oxygen. The balloon, and specifically the fill-it-at-the-counter service, was one of its highest margin products, the thing you literally could not get from Amazon because Amazon can't mail you a floating balloon. It was the last piece of the moat that the internet couldn't cross. And in 2019, that moat sprang a leak. Helium costs soared. Party City couldn't reliably fill the one product that made it special. It announced it was closing 45 stores and blamed the helium shortage. Wall Street looked at a party company that couldn't guarantee balloons, and that year, the stock lost about 2/3 of its value. And here's what makes the helium story so perfectly tragic. That balloon counter wasn't just a nice extra. It was the one thing keeping people walking through the door. You could buy plates and napkins anywhere, but if you wanted 30 helium balloons for a party by Saturday, you physically had to come to the store. The balloon was the hook that pulled you in, and once you were inside, you bought the tablecloth and the banner and the goodie bags too. When helium got scarce and expensive, Party City didn't just lose balloon money, it lost the reason to visit at all. Pull one thread and the whole sweater starts to unravel. Here's the lesson, and it's a brutal one. When you are drowning in fixed debt, you have zero cushion for a bad year. A healthy company shrugs off a helium shortage. A company bleeding $100 million a year in interest has no shrug left. Every problem, no matter how small, goes straight to the throat. And Party City was about to get the least small problem imaginable. Chapter 4. The Party Stops, March 2020. The entire premise of the company, people gathering in groups to celebrate, became overnight literally illegal. Think about what a pandemic does to a party company specifically. It's not like a grocery store where demand dips a little. Every single revenue driver Party City had was a gathering. Birthday parties canceled, weddings postponed, graduations on Zoom, baby showers, retirement parties, sweet 16s, office holiday parties. Gone. This was a business built 100% on discretionary spending for group events. At the exact moment group events were banned. And here is where the debt turns from a burden into a guillotine. When revenue collapses, most costs can flex. You can furlough staff, you can cut orders, you can delay the new streamer designs. But interest does not care about a pandemic. That $280,000 a day kept coming, 7 days a week while the stores sat empty. Debt is the one bill that never reads the news. A company with a clean balance sheet could ride out 2020. Painful, sure, but survivable. Parties would come back, and they did. But Party City wasn't riding out the storm with savings in the bank. It was riding it out with a $100 million annual interest bill and factories it hadn't been able to afford to modernize. The pandemic didn't create Party City's problem. It just pulled the trigger on a gun that private equity had loaded 8 years earlier. And while Party City was flat on its back, look who walked through the open door. Amazon, where any tablecloth, banner, or party pack arrives in 2 days. No big box overhead, no lease on 800 stores. Walmart and Target, which quietly expanded their party aisles. Dollar stores, undercutting on the cheap stuff. Spirit Halloween, eating the single most profitable season of the year. And soon, ultra-cheap online sellers like Temu and Shein, selling party junk for pennies straight from the factory. Do you see the trap closing? Remember Chapter 1. A category killer only works if it's the biggest and the cheapest. By 2021, Party City was neither. The internet was cheaper. The internet was bigger. Party City had become exactly what it had spent 35 years destroying. The overpriced specialty store you drive past on the way to somewhere cheaper. The predator had become the prey, and the first death was now unavoidable. Chapter 5. The First Death and the Zombie. In January 2023, Party City filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for the first time. Now, Chapter 11 is not supposed to be the end. It's supposed to be the emergency room. You go in, a judge helps you shed debt you can't pay, your lenders take a haircut, and you come out lighter and healthier. And on paper, that's what happened. Party City emerged in October 2023, having wiped out nearly $1 billion of debt. The headline said restructured. The press releases said stronger foundation. But look closely at the patient that walked out of that hospital. It had shed $1 billion and was still carrying around $800 million in debt. It was now owned by its former creditors, hedge funds and lenders, not operators who loved the party business. And it had just spent a year in bankruptcy, which is the worst possible time to be investing in your stores. So what came out of Chapter 11 wasn't a healthy company. It was a zombie. Still walking, still standing, but hollowed out. Walk into a Party City in 2024 and you could feel it. Dull linoleum floors, harsh fluorescent lighting, shelves of the same drab merchandise you could get cheaper, delivered from your couch. The website was an afterthought years behind Amazon. And here's the cruelest part. None of that was because management was stupid. It was because there was never any money. Every dollar that could have gone into a beautiful store or a great app had gone, for over a decade, into servicing debt. One retail consultant put it perfectly. Party City had a super defensible moat, but they blew it. And while the zombie shuffled along, the competition wasn't standing still. It was sprinting. Amazon had turned party supplies into a 2-day delivery afterthought. Temu and Shein were selling decorations for pocket change. shipped straight from the same kind of factories Party City used to own the advantage on. Walmart and Target quietly widened their party aisles into the space Party City used to own outright. And Spirit Halloween, a pop-up that appears for 2 months a year in empty storefronts with almost no year-round overhead, was quietly eating Halloween, historically the single most profitable season on Party City's calendar. Every competitor had one thing in common. None of them were carrying $800 million of debt. They could cut prices. Party City could not. When you owe that much, you can't afford to compete on the one thing your customers now cared about most: price. That's the lesson of the zombie years, and it's the most important one in this whole story. Bankruptcy can erase your debt. It cannot erase the decade you spent too broke to invest. You can restructure a balance sheet in a courtroom overnight. You cannot restructure 10 years of shabby stores, a broken website, and customers who've already learned to shop somewhere else. The damage that debt does isn't just financial. It's the future you never got to build. Party City came out of its first death alive, but with nothing left to fight with. And you can't run forever on an empty tank. Even a zombie eventually falls down. Chapter 6. The Autopsy. December 21st, 2024. 4 days before Christmas, Barry Litwin had been the CEO of Party City for about 4 months. And on that day, he reportedly got on a call with corporate staff and delivered the news. The company was winding down. Not restructuring, not another emergency room visit. Winding down. Going out of business. Every one of the roughly 700 remaining stores would close. Around 12,000 people would lose their jobs. Going out of business sales started almost immediately, and by the end of February 2025, America's biggest party supply chain was simply gone. The company's official explanation was that macroeconomic headwinds proved too severe. And that's technically true. The way he stopped breathing is technically a cause of death. But we do autopsies here, so let's name what actually killed it. It was not that people stopped having parties. It was a chain of failures, each one feeding the next. A private equity buyout in 2012 loaded $2 billion of debt onto a healthy company. That debt ate roughly $100 million a year. Money that should have modernized the stores and the website, and instead vanished into interest. Starved of investment, the moat crumbled. Then a helium shortage hit the one product the internet couldn't touch. Then a pandemic erased a year of revenue while the debt clock never paused. The first bankruptcy shed the debt, but not the decade of decay. And the internet, Amazon, Temu, Spirit, the dollar store, finished a job that private equity had started. Here's the final irony, and it's a perfect one. Party City was born as a category killer. It got huge by using scale and low prices to wipe out the small local party shop. And it died the exact same way it had lived, killed by a bigger, cheaper competitor with lower overhead and no debt. The internet did to Party City precisely what Party City had once done to the mom-and-pop store. The predator became the prey. Live by the category kill, die by the category kill. And if this story sounds familiar, it should, because Party City didn't die alone. Look at the graveyard of American retail over the last 15 years, and you'll see the same fingerprints on almost every headstone. Toys R Us, a category killer, loaded with buyout debt, gone. Sears, strangled by financial engineering. Payless, Radio Shack, Red Lobster. Over and over, the same pattern. A private equity firm buys a real functioning business, borrows against it, extracts its fees, and leaves the company to service a debt it never chose. The firm gets paid whether the company lives or dies, and when it dies, it's the 12,000 employees, not the financiers, who find out 4 days before Christmas. The buyout is designed so that the people who load the gun are never in the room when it goes off. And there's a clean lesson to take home from the rubble, because there always is. A moat is not enough. A beloved brand is not enough. A near monopoly is not enough. If you mortgage all of it to someone who cares more about this quarter than this decade, none of it will save you. The debt doesn't kill you on the day it's signed. It kills you slowly by stealing every dollar you needed to adapt until the first bad year you can't survive. Out of business, Party City, founded 1986, wound down February 28, 2025. Cause of death, a $2 billion leveraged buyout it could never deflate, popped by helium, a pandemic, and the internet it once beat. If you want to see the exact opposite of this story, a company that refused to let anyone put it in a box it merely rented. Watch The Dark Truth About McDonald's Real Estate Empire. Party City rented 700 stores and died a tenant. McDonald's bought the ground under every one of its restaurants and became a landlord that can't lose. Same industry, opposite ending. It's the smartest thing on this channel. Every company on this channel is dead or dying. We do the autopsy. Subscribe before the next collapse.